Welcome to River Talk for the week of February 2nd, 2015. My name is Emily, and today my co-hosts are
Joe Wendell,
Justin Couch,
Ryan Costello.
Today we will be talking about vaccinations. Should parents be required to vaccinate their kids against common diseases like measles, mumps, and rubella, that being the most common? Recently, several children have gotten sick at Disneyland out in California because of unvaccinated children spreading disease on guard railings. Also, Governor Chris Christie of New Jersey, a possible presidential candidate for 2016, has openly stated that vaccinations should be up to the parents. Today we are going to talk about our personal views on whether parents should be required to vaccinate their kids against this disease.
Okay.
So, Ryan, why don't you start?
My take on it is, it really, I'm pro-choice for everything, just about. So it should be up to parents, as far as what vaccinations they can give their children. I don't believe that any vaccinations should be forced by any government entity or medical entity whatsoever. If schools or whatever find out that the child has not been vaccinated and they don't want to let them in, well, that's their right too. But there's so many people on both sides of the fence with this issue, because there's a lot of people who have really outrageous ideas about vaccinations that they're putting things in them like poison and blah blah blah. And then there's also the other side of the fence where vaccinations can go so far, but then the organism can mutate and it doesn't work anymore, like the latest flu vaccine that the N2. Now there's an N3 that the N2 doesn't work for, and so if you get the N3, it's even more deadly. And it's just nature's way of saying, oh, you think you're going to do this? No, it's not going to happen. So.
Justin?
I think the whole vaccination thing, like you said, if the schools want to require it, I think that's, unless they have a really good reason not to, like religious reasons or something like that. For work, I'm required to get flu vaccines. It's just with the people I work with, the elderly, and so, I mean, in favor of not getting into discrimination all over the place. Well, you want to go visit your sick grandma in the hospital, well, you need a vaccine here, otherwise you might kill somebody. I mean, it should be heavily incentivized to do it, and if anyone doesn't want to have it done, they should have a pretty good reason, because it can cause so much problems with other people. It's not just personal responsibility, but it's societal. My
personal take on this is, while I think government should be out of a lot of things, I have government, especially to do with medical reasons. I think that the benefits from getting vaccines such as the measles to not only the children, but also the public health at large, is society's responsibility. There are so many people who, for whatever reason, cannot get a vaccine, like someone who is born with AIDS, for example, or other immune disorders. They are not protected, and they are only able to be protected if the herd is protected and the herd in general is vaccinated. Also, it's not fair to the kids if they aren't vaccinated. Roald Dahl wrote a letter. He wrote a letter after his daughter died from complications of measles, how she got this disease, and then there's a complication that we are still unable to treat. And while we will be posting a link to this letter, she died because of it. Thousands, if not millions, of children die from this disease And to think that some parents are not going to get this vaccine for them for reasons other than medical is just unacceptable, especially if they're exposing other children whose parents would like to give them the vaccine but cannot for medical reasons. It's unacceptable.
My take on the issue is similar to Ryan's, and I almost agree 100% with what you said. I think it should be the parent's choice. I don't think anyone's arguing against the fact that the parents should be able to choose, nor is anyone arguing the fact that the state should come in and force children to get immunizations. No one's saying that. I do believe that vaccines have been proven to help against the spread of the disease, particularly the MMR that we're talking about. But if a parent were to decide that their children wasn't going to receive the vaccine, they would have to understand, one, that their child is going to be more susceptible to the disease, as well as potentially harming other children in the area, because they could contract a disease that's very highly contagious, such as measles, and spread it.
Some doctors, I think it was on Channel 6, KBQC, they had a segment where some doctors are no longer allowing patients who have not been vaccinated for non-medical reasons to come into their office. And don't get me wrong, I have experience with this. My stepmother was very, very strongly against getting my siblings vaccinated until my twin brothers were born about 4 years ago. She didn't want them. And I think one of the most common myths around this vaccine is that it gives autism. People are very inclined to blame new things, for every problem. The autism link came as a result of a 1999 study with a very, very small group of children where they were tested. This study has since been retracted, since been disproven by the scientific community. The author himself has retracted it. And much of the literature you may see against getting the children vaccinated is come as a result of this study. So if you're on the fence, go talk to your doctor before you choose not to get this child vaccinated.
Well, I have heard people particularly state that they think that nanotechnology and other things are being added to vaccinations, and they won't get their children vaccinated because it's some sort of marking procedure. I've heard all kinds of ridiculous things, but the real issue that I think, and it's rampant in this country, it has been for a long time, and is the backlash of legal ramifications, lawsuits, and everything else that's going to come from whether or not people have to be required to be vaccinated or whatnot. Somebody trips over somebody's sidewalk and they'll sue them right away. Well, this is going to be huge if it gets any bigger and people want to fight more and more about it. It's all going to go to court, and it's going to, it's all about money, I think. That's what it all boils down to. Every single time is just money. We should have the freedom to say, no, I don't want my child vaccinated. Oh, my child now can't go to your school. Well, then, the hell with it. Then I'll take my child to the other school and they can get the money there.
I think part of it is that I'd be more okay with it if parents couldn't just check a box and say, my child's not vaccinated. That's the way it is in a lot of states getting to school. Yes, Illinois, I'm pretty sure Iowa requires people to get vaccines before entering kindergarten, 6th grade, and I don't even know the other ones. But unless you have a very strong medical reason, I see no reason to get an exemption. And in the process of doing this, to address your point, I would say there cannot be lawsuits, so you cannot sue to overturn this. If your child is rejected because of your decision, that's your responsibility, and there should not be able to be lawsuits.
That's an excellent idea, because I can see the buzzards flying already.
Yes, government.
They're waiting for that.
Yes, government should stay out of people's lives in general, but there is this clause in the preamble that says to provide for the general welfare. And in my mind, the general welfare means protecting as many children, innocent children, from these preventable diseases as possible. It's about protecting life after birth.
To backtrack a little bit, going back to the vaccines may have toxins in them. The study was made by Dr. Wakefield, who was a British scientist that published his findings in the Lancelot in 1998, which is a British newspaper. Since then, he's lost his medical license. The Lancelot has retracted his news article, and he's been on multiple news channels trying to defend his work, and time again, they've proven that he's lied about his research facts. So the findings that autism may be linked to vaccines has not been proven by any major scientific institution. But Ryan brings up a really good debate that opens a whole new area for this discussion, and it is, if a child doesn't receive a vaccine, do they still receive the rights of a child who has the vaccine? So if a child were not to receive the vaccine, do we deny him the right to education at the same school as a child with the vaccine? That brings a whole new perspective on the debate, because are we denying rights to people who have not received the vaccine? Are we secluding them or forcing them to consider doing something they don't want to do to receive benefits from society?
That's a good point.
Do parents have the right to choose whether the kids they go to school with are vaccinated or not? I mean, if it's a private school, and I mean, if you have kids that are immunocompromised, that had AIDS or born with AIDS, then
I think they have a right. They have
do they have a right to expel kids or to keep kids out based on the vaccination?
Private institutions have more sway in saying what they can allow and what they can't, because they make their own rules. But public schools is where you're going to find a major battlefield.
And the thing is that I feel like it's forgotten.
I guess as long as they have facilities, if they have facilities where kids can go, it's okay if they're ones that where kids can't go, because I mean, you don't want to have to expose everybody to that risk, just for the base of a few.
And I think what I'm seeing is that it's a parent's choice. It's a parent's choice. It's all about the parents and not about the kids. I think I have a right to be protected, to not have, the kids are innocent. The kids don't know anything, especially when they're 1 year old, which is when the first dose of the vaccine is given. They don't know about this disease. They don't know anything. They see it as a shot. And I think that they should have a right to grow up just without being exposed to something that could kill them, that has killed thousands, if not millions of children in the developing world throughout human history.
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't get the topic in time to
research it.
Much research on it. Is there a certain demographic of people that reject vaccination? Say,
Yes, there is.
I think it's
Yes.
like you know, people that are coming into the country that just don't believe in it for one reason or another.
It's mostly people, middle class to upper class people who are saying, or people who are afraid of it.
Middle class white people.
Middle class white people is what I've been seeing the most of. It's not immigrants. I mean, especially the poor, they are given subsidized vaccines, so.
Yeah, they don't pay for any of their vaccines.
It's,
for anybody, so.
Well, see, because I
It's
mean,
people who don't have to worry about getting sick and not going to work.
I've never really heard it from a leftist moron, but I've heard it from right-wingers a lot, that they don't want to get their kids vaccinated. These are the people who live up in like Idaho, and they're survivalists.
There are some
they do not
liberals,
want
like my
it.
mother.
There are some religious groups that don't.
Yeah, that was about to say. There's religious groups that are, for
Like
some
Jehovah's
reason.
Witnesses, I think, some other ones.
Well, on both sides,
Yeah.
there are Republicans that say we don't want to do this because it may cause autism or something. And then there are liberal sides that say, you know, they're putting nanoviruses in our
I thought it was reversed. I think it's probably, I think what I've seen is across political spectrum. I mean, it's conservative Christians, it's liberal atheists, it's and everyone in between.
It's a battle between.
It's basically
is
it's
it
a battle
causing-
between people who
Good
are
and evil,
who
stupid and-
don't believe in vaccine or people who believe in it. That's basically a battle.
There's no specific demographic like immigrants. There's no black versus white or
And
anything.
the
It's
thing about, you're
it's
saying about money is people don't pay for it nowadays. Like with
Right.
work,
it's insurance.
Yeah.
I mean, my job pays for flu vaccines just because they will have to pay me as much time off, or they won't have to worry about it.
Well, you know, for really sloppy comedy segue, you know, I got every single vaccine under the sun before I had to go to kindergarten. And look at me now.
Steve, what do you think about this topic?
Well, the classic definition of freedom is the idea that I can, you know, swing my arms around as much as I want to until I run into someone else's nose, and then I have to stop doing it. And I think, I think I agree with Joe's point that the vaccines are proven to work. If they're proven to work, I don't think parents should be able to opt out of getting the vaccine for the
And the
kids.
thing about science is that it's self-correcting. Science is based on repeated tests and hypotheses. And the vaccines have gone through many, many, many clinical studies to prove them safe. And if they weren't safe, the FDA would have them out of the clinics in a heartbeat.
Yeah, 5 minutes left.
Well, the whole religious thing is about the only exemplary lines I can think of. There might be a few extra, but
There are philosophical reasons for people who
Yeah.
don't.
I just looked at the news story.
That's true,
I went
but
to
we have-
college in a rather affluent town in Oregon called Ashland, Oregon. And this town was on NBC News because they're having a big measles outbreak there. So these are middle to upper class parents who aren't getting their kids vaccinated. They can afford the vaccine, they're choosing not to. So, I think the point you made about middle class families also opting out, that's a big demographic. It's really interesting. It's an ideological opting out, it's not
Yeah.
and I
It's,
think
a
It is.
fun-based opting out.
many people nowadays haven't really had any experience with diseases to realize how bad they can be. It's like a demon in the past,
Yes.
and memories quickly fading.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the problems. We're losing touch with it, so we don't know how bad it can be. If you want, you can Google a Penn and Teller segment where they throw balls and they use balls and bowling pins to represent the risk. And even if the study was true, 1 in every 110 kids who had this vaccine got autism. There are so many other kids who die if they don't get this vaccine, that even that risk is something that we should be willing to face to protect the lives of so many other children.
When I was a kid, routinely kids got chicken pox.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
normal. And kids also got the measles. But there were a number of kids who also went deaf or had other problems from getting those diseases. And so you mentioned the herd, right? So we have pulled that out of the herd by vaccinating kids. Now kids don't get those things. And so the more kids that are unvaccinated, we're bringing it back, in other words. And kids don't have an immunity for it now because they haven't had
And
it,
with chicken
because we
pox,
vaccinated against it.
with the chicken pox, they can always look at shingles later down in their life,
Yeah.
which is painful.
And I discovered that's how Helen Keller went. 2 years old, she contracted measles, and
Well, she is a good segment to my final point I'd like to add is that there's a measles outbreak in California, and we consult experts and doctors, and major media sources ask politicians such as Hillary Clinton, Rand Paul, Governor Chris Christie, what do you think on the issue? And I think that the focus for media should be more on, there's a measles outbreak, let's get doctors to figure out what we can do to stop it and save the lives of these children.
Yeah.
Why are we asking politicians who
Exactly.
have no medical background what
Yes.
they think?
I
Because
totally
we're
agree
already
with you.
focused on the 2016 election for president. The media in this country overhypes a lot of things, but when we do have essential problems, we go to the wrong people.
Yeah, don't ask a fool
Yeah.
to try and figure out rocket
Yes,
science.
yes.
Don't,
Yeah.
okay,
For
I
sure.
think on that note, we need to close. I think we've had a really good discussion. We've brought in a bunch of different views from someone who grew up around measles and as well as people our age. Thank you everyone for
I
watching.
have 2 minutes.
I really enjoyed this discussion. Again, if you have any topic ideas or if you want to sit in on a future discussion or even join our panel, please contact us. You can email me at elegel@live.eicc.edu. Thank you again to our panelists, Dr. Barlene for moderating and John Schlenz for being the camera person.
That's me.
We'll see you next week.
And if you want, you can watch John Sledge dancing
Are you
Gangnam
done?
Style.
Did you turn it off?
We got 1.5 minutes left, actually.
Well,
Can you
But-
just do your
Will
dance
that-
Gangnam
During
Style
editing, will
and
that chop off?
Okay.
we-
That was